Welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast on the Salescast Network. You've joined a global movement of sales professionals who are dedicated to being authentic and building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. Together, we are on a mission to bring sincerity and substance to the sales profession we all love. Get ready to be inspired and equipped as we join our hosts, Larry Levine and Darrell Amy.
I'm thrilled to introduce to you a revolutionary tool that will change the way you understand yourself and others. Our partners at the Y Institute have created the Y.OS Discovery Platform, a powerful tool that in just 10 minutes can help you uncover your core motivations, how you bring them to life, and what others can expect from you. This is more than just a self-awareness tool. It's a game changer for coaches and those who want to help their clients reach their full potential. If you're a coach or a sales leader, go to yinstitute.com and look for the Y certification. We'll put the link in the show notes. When you reach out to the Y Institute, let them know you heard about it on Selling from the Heart, and you'll be on your way to helping your people discover what drives them. Don't just take our word for it. Go to yinstitute.com and see the powerful impact the Y.OS discovery can have on your life.
Welcome back to the Selling from the Heart podcast. Your co-host, Darrell Amy, here today with Larry Levine. What's going on, Larry?
A little under the weather, but I'm going to rally. I'm going to rally for this one. I could not let this one go by. I didn't want to reschedule this one, so I can't wait.
This is good. We got Bret Barrie in the house. I see him back in the green room. He is chomping and ready to go. We've got a great episode on deck. And how about the new bumper music, Larry? I was like doing a little air drumming back in the background there. This is exciting.
By the way, is that when you had your mullet?
Hey, we don't speak about that very often. So, hey, welcome to Selling from the Heart. By the way, if you're new, you've joined a growing community of sales professionals that are dedicated to being genuine, being authentic, adding real value, building trust. We call it Selling from the Heart. And Larry, one of the things that's so fun about the Selling from the Heart community, and this is a community of like-hearted sales professionals, is we get to hear from sales professionals all over the world across multiple industries. And it's so fun to be able to give it a shout out every week to one of our listeners.
No, absolutely. I just want to give a quick shout out to Donna Pruitt. And Donna said, when I started reading your book, she goes, I could not put it down. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. She said, when you have been in the same industry for over 21 years, you tend to forget what worked in the past. This book is a reminder going back to what you did in the past will work. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Donna.
Donna, thank you. And thank you to everybody who is liking, sharing the podcast, and really bringing this movement of authenticity and trust forward. And it's such a cool thing. And one of the things I'm so excited about, we've been talking about it, and now it is literally just around the corner, is the Selling from the Heart experience coming up just in a couple days here in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is going to be so exciting. We are going to gather together a whole community of like-hearted salespeople, Selling from the Heart, listeners, insider group members, sales leaders, all coming together for a deep dive into reigniting our passion for sales. And Larry, I can't wait. Selling from the Heart experience. You might be able to snag a last-minute ticket to this one. And if you can figure out a way to get there, I recommend you do it.
Yeah, same here. A lot of times in sales, we talk about skill set, we talk about mindset, but the missing link behind all of this is heart set. Mm-hmm. And you got to get your heart right. And I remember, this goes back a while ago, Darrell, but I remember we asked, our guests, what's it mean to you to sell from the heart? And I remember somebody saying, it depends on what's in your heart.
So, yeah, that's right.
So that's what we're going to do at the Selling from the Heart experience. We're going to open the cupboards and find out what's in your heart. We're going to reignite that. So everyone's going to walk out with a deeper passion for sales than when they walked in.
I can't wait. I'm so excited about this event. Our friend Elizabeth Cottrell is going to be there as well. You want to be a part of this. If you need to make last minute plans, snag a ticket, sellingfromtheheartexperience.com. We hope to see you in Raleigh. And if not this one, we'll see you in a future Selling from the Heart experience, as our intention is to bring these on a regular basis. So we're so excited about it. And all of it, we want to say, this is time where we work on our skill set. Yes, you got to work on your skill set. We work on our mindset. I hope you're doing that. But don't forget your heart. Don't forget that fire inside that fuels all of it. And that's what we're aiming at the Selling from Heart experience. That's what we're aiming at today with Bret Barrie here in the studio. And Bret Barrie, you're going to enjoy this conversation. He was a Hall of Fame President's Club winning sales rep, and he's been a top producing sales leader in multiple industries. He's the author. You probably know him for the book, The Selling Edge, How to Reach the Top in Any Sales Industry. His newest book, Promoted, The Proven Path to Career Advancement, is available where fine books are sold. Best of all, Larry, he's a baseball enthusiast, a fitness junkie. He's happily married with 3 children, lives in the greater Sacramento area. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Bret Barrie. Bret, welcome to the Selling from the Heart podcast. It is great to have you here.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Hey, this is going to be great. There's a couple first times with Bret, right? Bret's the first one who's come on the podcast who's also submitted a video on what's it mean to him to sell from the heart. So if you caught a past episode with Sharon Lecter, Bret Barrie was sandwiched right in the middle of our podcast. You're awesome, Bret.
And here he is. We get to pick his brain, and we're going to have a great conversation. And we start out with the question, Bret, that every guest on the Selling from the Heart podcast answers. And that is, what does it mean to you, Bret, to sell from the heart?
I'm going to try to not mess this up this time because I feel like I nailed it in the cameo that you guys ran with Sharon. But really, when you look at it at its core, Selling from the Heart, it's actually the title of the last chapter of my new book, Off Self and On Purpose. And when I think of what it means to sell from the heart, it means putting your own interest aside for the greater good of who you're trying to serve and who you're trying to help. And so in a sales capacity, if you're selling a product or a service to customers or prospects, forget about the widget you're selling, forget about you for a few minutes and really take a look at who is that person you're trying to serve. What is the overarching problem that they're trying to solve in their life or their business? And then, from there, when you start with that focus, you can start to dial it down to what are their objectives? What are their challenges? What's on their current agenda? And then, once you know those things, I think you've earned the right, the trust, and when you build a human connection, you can approach them and propose a solution that you think would make sense. But in my mind, doing that and proposing that before you know those things, it creates a very transactional type, interaction with the person. And it's really not selling from the heart. It's selling for your own interests, not theirs. And so to me, that's what it means to sell from the heart is truly to serve and for the greater good.
I think, Bret, on a past episode, Darrell had said it's selling from the can when all that happens. You remember that, Darrell?
Yeah, you want to sell from the heart, not sell from a can. And that is, you're so spot on. That resonates so much because when we just jump straight to, I know what you need. That's selling from a can, right? There's no trust there. It's just diving in to take the time and really care. That's when things really, that's when it starts coming from the heart.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one thing I'll add is when I transitioned into the medical device industry, I was into a B2B industry before, and the approach was very much, I don't want to say it was a canned approach, but there were talk tracks and scripts, and there were only a few different objections or concerns that customers could throw out there. And so you guys know how this is. When someone starts to tell you their concern, you literally already know what you're going to jump into, right, how you're going to handle it, and where you're going to take it. When I got into medical device sales and you start selling to surgeons and selling to hospital administrators and, a very high sophisticated sell where there's a lot of different stakeholders involved, you really have to switch your approach because that canned sales pitch really doesn't apply. You've really got to use a lot more intuition and be able to really listen and understand what's important to that person and go that way. So yeah, I would agree completely. Get rid of the can.
Kick the can. There we go.
Kick the can to the curb.
That's great. This may be a new hashtag for us. Kick the can. I like that a lot. But this whole discussion, by the way, thank you so much for taking the time, putting your heart into these books. These are extremely valuable tools for all of us in the sales industry. And if you don't have the selling edge, you need to hit pause right now. Go get yourself a copy of the book. And but this latest book that you've written around Promoted and the path to career advancement, what in the context of a sales professional that's thinking about the overarching trajectory of their career, what advice would you give to a sales professional when they're sitting down and having that reflective moment on where's this whole career thing going for me? And what do I need to be thinking about my career as I advance?
Yeah, great question. And I think the first piece of advice I would give someone that finds himself in that position is what's your true why and what's your true motivation? And I can tell you a lot of people, I think get into sales management for not necessarily what I would consider to be the right reasons. Maybe it's the title, maybe it's the perception of things being easier or not having to make as many cold calls, or maybe it's, the perception of more money. And a lot of those things aren't true, honestly. And the reality, and in the book, I actually talk about a couple really rough conversations that senior leaders above me had when I was at that point in my career. Those things really aren't true. When you make the decision to go into leadership, it is far more difficult in a lot of ways than running your own territory where you have a lot more control. And so, and you're going to be faced with challenges that are a lot different than when you're an individual contributor. And so my best advice would be, one, really try to get an understanding of why is it that you want to lead people? Why do you want to go that path? There's also a lot of benefits to it and a lot higher level of fulfillment, which for me, that was the determining factor, was to be able to contribute at a higher level and really help influence a lot more people than I was. And so there's a lot of benefits to it, but I think people really need to understand what they're getting into. And also, I would suggest talking to senior leaders in your company, talk to people that are in the role that you aspire to be into next, and really try to get an understanding of what a day in the life is like for them. What's it really like? What's expected of them from senior leaders above them, from the people that they support? What are the types of things and the types of support they need? What are the surprises that they didn't totally understand or didn't realize was going to be a part of the job before they got into it? And I think once you know all of those things and really have a good why, and then also an understanding in terms of the expectations of travel. I mean, that's something that, I think when you transition from an individual role to more of a leadership role, the responsibility of travel is probably going to increase to some extent in a lot of cases. And so I think once you know all of those things, then I think you can start to put together a good path and a good plan to make it happen. But I would start with that.
You know what's interesting about this? I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, Bret, and I had flashbacks, massive flashbacks. So this goes back probably almost 20 years ago. It was my first entree into sales management. Worst experience I've ever had in my whole life. Absolute worst. I wasn't prepared. I thought the way that, and I was a great individual contributor. Darrell and I knew each other back then. I was a great individual contributor. But what I soon found out was the way that I was carrying myself and what made me successful as an individual contributor didn't translate into managing people. And it was just the worst experience I ever had. I had to go. I said, you know what? I checked out. I said, I'm not cut out for any of this. Just none whatsoever. But I think
real.
You have to have a play. It's totally real.
Totally real.
That's why, what I appreciate about your book is you've basically put together a guideline for someone who's aspiring to be that leader. I thought it was just the next thing in my career, right? I moved from being here to then being a manager, and I go, it's not cut out this way. I had no logical path and no stepping stone. I wasn't prepped for it. And I think that could be the same. That could be said for a vast majority of salespeople.
Yeah. And I can tell you I think the biggest transition in terms of mindset and approach from going from an individual contributor to a sales leader And I remember, and I talk about the book actually starts with me getting punched in the gut. I mean, not literally, but figuratively. I had interviewed for a couple leadership positions and didn't get them, and I wasn't ready. And so I did get some feedback. But I think my perception, and I think what tends to go wrong when people get promoted into leadership either too soon or aren't prepared for it, is when you're a top selling sales rep and you've got your territory and you're winning awards and all that, and then you think of the opportunity of maybe, all right, well, if we're going to take what I did in my territory and we're going to multiply this by 8 times, and then I'm going to go teach everybody what I did to make my territory successful. And we're going to have the top producing team in the whole company in a matter of like a year once everybody gets on board. Like, this is going to be easy. Right. And I mean, obviously it doesn't work like that. And I think that's what goes wrong sometimes, is that misperception that's really not the way leadership works. And obviously when it comes to leading people are all different. Everyone's got a different motivation for why they do what they do. People have different responsibilities at home. People work differently. I mean, even no two salespeople, even messaging, no two salespeople message exactly the same way. And so, there's a lot of dichotomies to leadership where there is some structure, but there's also, you've got to know when to really back off and listen and let people go the route that they want to go. And that nuance, and, as Jocko Willink likes to call it, the dichotomy of leadership, really knowing how to toe that line, I think, is something that's really hard for people transitioning from a high level salesperson to a manager.
I love it. Well, this is an incredibly powerful and relevant conversation. It's one I wish that I had 25 years ago. I'll share my nightmare first sales management role story in just a few minutes. One of the things that you're very familiar with, Bret, is in the middle of our podcast now. We love hearing from our community about what it means to them to sell from the heart. And this week, we get to hear from one of our favorite members of the Selling from the Heart Insiders group, Kayla Perlove. It is so cool to get to know Kayla, and I just can't wait to hear what Kayla has to say. So we're going to hear Kayla's take on what does it mean to sell from the heart after a brief word from our sponsors.
Larry and Darrell here, and we're excited to let you know about a new event that will reinvigorate your heart for sales.
The Selling from the Heart experience will be a gathering of like-hearted sales professionals coming to you on April 19th and 20th in Raleigh, North Carolina.
We invite you to join like-hearted sales professionals for an inspirational day that will refresh, refocus, and reignite your passion for selling.
I can't wait. You can learn more and get your tickets at www.sellingfromtheheartexperience.com. That's sellingfromtheheartexperience.com.
We hope to see you there.
Hi, my name is Kayla, and I'm a proud member of the Selling from the Heart Insiders group. To me, selling from the heart is when a sales professional consistently leads with authenticity and transparency, even when we may find ourselves in not ideal situations. And what I mean by that is business isn't perfect. There will be some bumps along the way, and it's how we handle those situations as sales professionals that truly shows if we're selling from our hearts. Other things that come to mind when I think about selling from the heart is always doing what's best for the client, always caring, and always going above and beyond and providing great customer service.
All right.
I love Kayla. If you would have seen Kayla when she first came in the Insiders group to right now, complete transformation. Kayla, you're a rock star.
Yeah, we're proud of you. Awesome. By the way, if you want to submit a video just like Kayla or Bret, just text the word video to 21,000. That's video to 21,000. And you'll get instructions on how to submit your video, a short video about what it means to you to sell from the heart. So cool. Bret, I said I was going to share my story. Larry shared his story. So I was that guy. I was the guy when the sales manager left for another career. They called me into the office and said, Darrell, you're our top sales rep. And they basically said, what we want you to do is replicate yourself, right? If you can just replicate yourself. And I was like Larry. I jumped into a role. The Peter Principle was in full 100% effect. And I did so poorly in that role that within a year I got promoted to run the whole branch. But all of that, I think what was sad, here's what's sad about that. Had I had, promoted the proven path to career advancement, had I had some good mentors and advice, I would have done a whole lot better. And it was probably literally almost 2 decades before I had the courage to step out in a leadership role in terms of actually leading people, because that experience was such a bummer in a lot of senses that I thought, well, I just need to go heads down and, do my own thing. But I later learned that I'm actually really good at leading people. I just didn't have the tools or the support I needed at 24 years old to be able to succeed in that role. And so I think what you're doing here in terms of coaching salespeople and how to make that career transition into leadership and do it correctly is extremely valuable. What are some things, if I'm a salesperson and I'm going, you know what, I really do think I would like to lead people, and I do think that my heart is to help other people succeed. What are some things that I could be doing as a sales producer right now in order to prepare myself so when I do get tapped on the shoulder and they say, do you want to step into this role? What are some things I could do to make sure that I show up ready to serve and not bomb the way Larry and I did?
Well, and I bombed in the interview, but it was probably a good thing because I would have bombed in the job. I would say, so 3 things in particular with one prerequisite. The prerequisite, and this is chapter 1 of the book, crush your current job. Mm-hmm. And so I tell the story of a gentleman that used to report to me where he was incredible, knew everything about the company. He was one of those, any rep called him, he was willing to help, knew all of the talk tracks, knew how to handle all the objections, was always the first one to jump in and help out on team calls and anything anyone needed. Would have been a fantastic leader. There was one problem though. He had only hit his quota 2 out of the last 5 years. And so, I would say that to me is the number one prerequisite. If you want to move into leadership and you're going to lead people, there is a level of accountability, there's a level of credibility, and there's a responsibility that you're going to have. Where if you can't, if you can't hit the number and meet the objectives in your own individual territory, you're going to have a hard time convincing, the VP of sales or the CEO that you can meet an objective 8 to 10 times larger than that. So that's the one prerequisite. But I would say, aside from that, 3 things that everyone could do. And there's 10 different things in the book, but I'll highlight what I think would be the 3 most important right here. The first one is intentionally build your personal brand. And in this, when I was a sales rep, I was on top of the world. I was winning a bunch of awards, had done it in multiple different industries. And, so when I got to the point, and I'd never been rejected in my life in the professional sense until I started applying for management jobs, and I didn't get them. And then I started asking for feedback as to why. And, I would start to hear things like, oh, well, we didn't know you wanted to go into management, or, well, we know you're a great sales rep, but we don't know how you do in this regard. And then, what ended up happening, and it was by accident, but about 2 years after the beginning of the book, I was helping one of the physicians that I sold to at the time, orthopedic surgeon, helping him with a patient in his office. And after we finished the patient's visit, the patient had left. The doctor calls me and says, "Hey, Bret, come into my office real quick." And I go in and say, "Hey, Dr. Robinson, what's going on?" He goes, "Hey, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm great. I've never been better. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm getting married in 5 months, and life is great. Things are good." And he goes, "Oh, that's what it is." And he said, "You've lost like 20 pounds since the last time I've seen you." And I just wanted to make sure it was a healthy loss of 20 pounds and that you weren't, sick or anything. And I wasn't. What had happened was, when my wife and I started dating, I stopped going out for happy hour 3 or 4 nights a week. Immediately lost a bunch of weight and obviously looked better, felt better. That wasn't even the most significant thing. About a year after that, I was at a science summit, and one of my old counterparts said to me, "Bret, hey, you seem different. Like you seem different, like in a good way. And I go down the path. Oh yeah, I lost a bunch of weight, happy, getting married, And he goes, no, that's not what I mean. Like you're more responsible. Like you're more responsible. You care more about people, and like you just conduct yourself with a higher level of respect. And the question in the book that I pose is, would the CEO hand you the keys to the company? And, from an experience and standpoint, that's not why I asked that, but from a character standpoint, sure. Would the CEO, in terms of character, respect, and all that, would the CEO feel comfortable, handing you a leadership position? And how you portray yourself, is that something that people would want to follow? And I think, early in my career, that was the big gap was, customers wanted to follow me. They wanted to buy from me. Other salespeople wanted to hear how I was selling so much. But when it came to actually being their boss and their leader and cultivating and leading a team, there was a big gap there. And so I did not intentionally build my brand. It actually, I got married and kind of grew into who I am today that way. But I would caution people, if you're in your early mid-20s, you're at that point in your career, really be mindful of how you're acting and how that's being perceived by those above you, especially senior leaders who, you're going to want their endorsement for a job at some point if you want to go that path. Second thing is state your intent. And I mentioned it earlier, but when I first applied for my first management role, the first response I got from the senior leader was, "Oh, I didn't know you wanted to be a manager." And so if that happens and you say that, then you did something wrong. And I think that once you do determine that this is the route you want to go, you need to let your manager know, whether it's in a one-on-one meeting. I think, annual reviews and mid-year reviews, these are great times to engage in career-oriented discussions. And if your leaders that you report to are good leaders, they should be doing this proactively anyways. But if they're not, it's your responsibility to really do that and express, what your career interests are. And then also network up the ladder. Don't just stop at your manager or your boss. Network with your boss's boss and as far up and in different departments as you can go. And then I think, the third thing, which kind of falls into place, if you do the first two properly, is really develop a career roadmap. And this is I think the challenge that if you're talking to a VP of sales and he's considering promoting someone into their first management role, there is an inherent risk to promoting someone because you don't want to happen what, the story Larry talked about. That happens all too often when people get promoted too soon. And so what you almost need is a dress rehearsal. And one of my daughters is a ballet dancer, and they do her ballet school. They're incredible. I mean, they have ex-professional dancers that teach them, and they do several performances through the year, and they practice 5 or 6 days a week for 2 and 3 and 4 hours a day year round. Wow. And so when you think about it, when they go to actually perform those 4 or 5 performances over the course of a weekend, they've practiced that so many times it's ingrained in them. And the question that I would ask is, if someone steps into a sales leadership role, have they given themselves that much practice in sales leadership type positions? And really, this is where, build out a career roadmap, and you can almost do a gap analysis on yourself to identify, what are you going to have to do in the next job? What are the skills that are required? And then how do you get that experience? And for me, people that have reported to me that wanted to be managers over the years, I mean, there's several things you can do. You can help partake in interviews. You do want to give people kind of a quick HR once over, so to make sure that they don't get the company in hot water. But I think participating and helping in interviews is an awesome way. I mean, hiring the right people is probably the most important thing you're going to have to do as a sales leader. Yep. Another thing, obviously, if you can become a field sales trainer and learn how to coach people, how to provide feedback, how to create action plans that people are going to follow and that you can support along the way. That's obviously a huge component to leadership. And then also, I think, running team meetings. Sales managers, once you run a lot of team meetings, you are more than happy to hand the baton to someone else that might want to help share and help lead a meeting. And so, but I think, as a sales leader, running an effective meeting and building a cohesive team culture is so vital and so important that to me, that's a huge determining factor in terms of if you can motivate and inspire a team and get a team to actually talk to you and provide two-way feedback and help out. So I would say, those are three very easy, concrete actions people could take.
Love it.
That, if you do that over a couple years, when the opportunity comes about, you can't always control that. But if you partake in those actions, you are going to progressively put yourself in a better situation.
Super smart.
This is so good. And you know what's interesting about what you just laid out? And as I started listening to what you're saying, first thing just popped through my head, because we're all sports junkies, right? I know you're a sports junkie, Brett. I know Darrell likes sports. There's a logical stepping stone. There's a logical transition in professional sports, insert whatever professional sport there is. Mm-hmm. You just don't become the head coach overnight. There's logical stepping stones. You're groomed for it. You're doing certain things. There's assistance to assistance. Here's my challenge to the sales world out there. Let's get back to doing that, right? Imagine a sales leader creating a sales plan that included a stepping stone, right? If you have aspirations to become a leader, here's the things that we do inside this company. And it starts with this, and then you progress to here, and then you progress to here. I think then if that would happen, we'd have more leaders that are prepared, as conversely. And I talk to them all day long. Biggest concern with sales leaders, with their managers, is their ability to truly coach and lead people, because they were put into that position too soon.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love the sports analogy too. There's actually a pretty good baseball story in the book also.
There you go. Well, that'll get Larry reading it, and the rest, everyone else listening.
By the way, I already read it.
I should say rereading it.
And I do want to say, by the way, Larry, thank you for writing the foreword to the book. Turned out absolutely phenomenal.
My pleasure.
When I think of what it means to be a great sales leader, at its core, selling from the heart, and the authenticity and trust and connection, everything that you stand for, was such a logical way to kick off the book. Can't thank you enough for your support.
I love you, man. That was good.
Well, so how can folks get a copy of this book?
So a couple different ways. It's live on Amazon, all formats, Kindle, paperback, hardcover. So you can go to Amazon.com, put in promoted Bret Barrie. It'll come right up. Already, the sales are going really well. There's already a lot of 5-star reviews, so definitely check it out. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you go to my profile, it's Bret with 1 T and the Barrie's Barrie. If you go to my profile, there's a link in my bio, links to the book, and then also my website, bretbarrie.com.
Awesome.
So any one of those 3 ways.
Well, Bret, thank you so much for sharing time with us today. This has been super practical, and I know it's helped a lot of people. So I appreciate you investing in us, and you are a true selling from the heart champion. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Bret.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Man, where was Bret when I was getting promoted into being a sales manager? What a gift to the sales world.
Oh, and Darrell, you knew exactly where I was at that time. So but it's just so true. It's unfortunate. I just encourage everyone, go grab a copy of Bret's book. That's right. There has to be, one of my favorite words is lean in and lead up.
Yeah.
And if you have aspirations to becoming a sales manager or a sales leader, then I believe you're responsible for how you show up. Lead into people and lead up. But it's how you show up, and you're 100% responsible for this.
Yeah. And you can make the choices now to set yourself up for success in the next stage of your career. So grab a copy of Promoted by Bret Barrie, The Proven Path to Career Advancement. And another way you can lean in to lead up is to hang out with like-hearted people. And that's why we've put together the Selling from the Heart experience. That's why we have the Insiders Group that Kayla, another huge shout out to Kayla. Thank you for your video about what it means to sell from the heart. That was really cool. But these opportunities to get engaged with the Selling from the Heart experience, April 19th and 20th in Raleigh, to get engaged in the Selling from the Heart Insiders Group, or wherever, to find a community of like-hearted sales professionals that you can lean into, and some people that can mentor you as well as you develop the types of friendships that are going to allow you to progress in your career, wherever you want to go. It's just so powerful. Larry, I'm so excited about all the things that are going on around here at Selling from the Heart. I know something. I know we got some great guests coming up. So here's our ask. Would you like and subscribe if you haven't already? And if you're a longtime subscriber, would you pick 2 or 3 people that you want to share this with? People that maybe are peers on your sales team or other friends you have that sell, or maybe they're entrepreneurs that are also responsible for selling. Would you share Selling from the Heart? Because together what we're doing is we're leading a movement of authenticity and trust in the sales profession, and it is sorely needed, and it is happening, Larry, and I'm so excited about all of it.
It's happening, and I still keep going back. Who would have thought just 6 years ago we start this podcast that turned into what it's turned into today? Darrell, I thank you. I thank everyone out there for just rising up and saying, yes, we want to sell from the heart. We appreciate you all. Just continue to do all the great things y'all are doing.
I agree 100%. So until next time, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, keep building trust, prepare to advance your career, and most of all, sell from the heart.